Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling. And tonight we have a special guest, a man who has definitely an extensive career in the wrestling business with some extremely interesting stories to tell. He is known as Krusher Rick Knopf. Before we get into him, and I probably pronounced that incorrectly, and I apologize, but before we get into discussions there, I'm, of course, joined by the man, Mr. Cheap Heat, Maurice Shortall. Maurice, how are you tonight, sir?
Very good, very good. In great company tonight, so I'm really looking forward to talking to Rick about his career. There's a lot out there, so looking forward to get stuck in.
Rick, thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Well, thank you for the invitation, Jack Kirby and Maurice Shorthill. I hope I said that right.
I will just we'll say you did.
We'll roll with it, bro.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's me, Santa Claus. No, not really. I just played a part.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question that a lot of the fans find interesting, and that is, growing up, were you a fan of the wrestling business? And if so, what territories or companies did you pay attention to or follow?
Oddly enough, I didn't really discover professional wrestling until the summer of 1975. I was at the age of 10 years old when I discovered wrestling. I was living here down in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. My older brother, would go to the matches, and they would come through Florida Championship Wrestling, had territory, did Loop of Florida. And Thursday nights, they'd come to Jacksonville. He would talk about the matches, and I'd hear him talk about these wrestlers and talk about the bad guys and that. So I was like subconsciously drawn into it. But I was thinking about this the other day. Before I really got into the wrestling part, I think it's always been in my blood, because stories that my brothers would tell me, and that when I was just a little baby in 1 year old, 2 years old, they would take me and throw me against the wall in the bedroom, and I'd bounce off the bed and I'd start laughing and stuff. And so it's like, apparently it's been in my blood since I was a little kid. But 75, 10 years old is when I got bit by the wrestling bug. I happened to be playing with some childhood friends out, one summer, come in for lunch. Wrestling was on TV, and it just so happened Dusty Rhodes was doing an interview, and I was instantly drawn to what Dusty Rhodes was talking about, and I was hooked from that moment. Long story short.
Was there a particular moment in time that you decided that you were going to pursue wrestling as a career?
Yeah, age 10. I knew right then that's all I wanted to do. And, I would tell people about it. Matter of fact, I was so hooked on the wrestling with Dusty that I had a white cowboy hat. I don't know where I got the white cowboy hat from, but I would walk around all summer long with the white cowboy hat, and I was imitating Dusty Rhodes. So I was instantly hooked. I knew this is what I wanted to do. I got a lot of ridicule from friends and family members and stuff, but I didn't care. Not too many kids at 10 years old go, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? Well, I want to be a fireman. I want to be a policeman. I want to be a baseball player, hockey player. I want to be a professional wrestler. That was the goal, And, 1984, fresh out of high school, my dream became my reality.
Can you talk a little bit about your training process back then?
Oh yeah, that's a whole lot going on that one. When I started my training, we trained at this old dairy farm. It was an old dairy farm converted into a flea market. And you had to go down this dirt road that was like 2 miles to where you get to the facility, full of potholes. So you're driving down pothole. And it was a little building, no air conditioning, no windows, no nothing. It had an industrial fan in there. And basically, it was just a giant sweat box. But it was ran by old school wrestlers. I was taught old school ways. I was taught, you know, to defend yourself, to take care of yourself. Uh, a lot of guys talk about old school, and I personally think that's the best way to be trained by old school wrestlers because they're not only going to teach you, but then they're going to teach you the proper way, the wrestling business, how to take care of yourself. If you're going to have any longevity in the wrestling business, grow thick skin real quick. That's the best advice I could give it to any young person, male or female that are getting into the wrestling business. If you want to have any longevity in this wrestling business, you better grow some thick freaking skin real damn quick and in a hurry.
Yeah. 1984 then, Rick, you're saying like you got your moment, but wrestling was so popular in the States in the 80s. Like, was there anyone that you were looking on the TV screens and you're saying, I want to fight that guy? Was there anyone that you thought, I want to get in the ring with him? Who was your dream opponent?
Oh man, there were so many guys. I mean, it's like when I say I was hooked on wrestling, I was the ultimate super fan, the ultimate mark. I had the wrestling magazines, I had the wrestling videos, I had, the action figures when the action figures started coming out. I mean, I had posters on my wall, pictures on my wall. I mean, this is all I really wanted to do, and it's like I eat, drink, breathe it 24/7. So it was like there was nothing else that I wanted to do. But it was, yeah, the 80s, it was great. And I started my training in that, and I was probably a year and a half into the business. I started here in Jacksonville, Florida, my career. Then I went up to Valdosta, Georgia, was wrestling for a promotion there. And they had the Wild Samoans come in working with them. I met Afa and Sika working for a Jacksonville independent promotion that I was working with. And then I ran back into them in '86 when with this promotion, All Star Championship Wrestling in Valdosta, Georgia, promoted Grady Odom. And that's where I met Coquina, Coquina Maximus, that later came out, WWE as Yokozuna and the Tonga Kid. So I had a couple matches put on video cassette. CWF, I always watched CWF, Championship Wrestling from Florida. I always wanted to, that was my bucket list, one of my bucket list things, being in the wrestling business. I remember in high school writing in my scrapbook, what are you going to do in 5 years? Be a professional wrestler. The goal is be a professional wrestler, be a household name, wrestle in front of my hometown in Jacksonville, Florida, be in the wrestling magazines. Year and a half into the business, I went down to Gainesville, Florida. Championship Wrestling from Florida was down there doing a live house show. Bill Dundee, superstar Bill Dundee, was the booker for them at the time. I talked to Bill Dundee, handed him my cassette tape. He invited me to come watch the matches. I watched the matches, went back up home to Jacksonville, and probably about 3 weeks later, I get a phone call. They're inviting me to come down to Tampa, Florida to wrestle on TV. So I was very fortunate to be at the right place at the right time. A year and a half into the business is unheard of, really, for a person in the indies. I was 19 years old. I was a kid. I mean, I was a kid in a candy store. I mean, it's like this was the greatest thing going on for me. So it's like that's basically how it started. Plus doing indie stuff.
You mentioned the CWF territory, one of the last greats around, for a bit following the national expansion of WWF. What would you consider your highlights of working that territory?
Working for CWF was really great. This is short. Sadly, it was I got in there right after Eddie Graham had passed away, and everybody knows the story about Eddie Graham committing suicide. Well, we don't have to go into that issue, but it was the territory was still thriving. It was still going on strong. I was fortunate to be able to wrestle at the very first Eddie Graham Memorial Show in St. Petersburg, Florida. That was one of my highlights. The second highlight came in for 86, 87, the summer of 87. Jim Crockett bought out the Florida territory. And I was able to wrestle on the 87 Great American Bash Tour in Jacksonville in front of my hometown crowd. So I had wrestled independents in Jacksonville, but this was a major platform working, with all the top guys in, Florida Championship Wrestling, Jim Crockett Promotions. And I got a funny story about that, the Great American Bash. I actually saved Michael Hayes' life.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. There was this guy that wrestled with us back in the day who went by Michael Hayes. And this guy was kind of shady. We're still sitting in the locker rooms and that, and about 25 police officers, JSO police officers, and detectives show up backstage at the Coliseum. And they have a arrest warrant for Michael Hayes. And, I go in there, tell Michael, and say, hey, there's cops out here, and, say you got an arrest warrant for you. Michael thought I was, ribbing him, playing a joke. And so he's like, I said, Mike, there's 25 cops, 30 cops out here. What do they want? I said, they got an arrest warrant for you to say the Grand Theft Auto. And he goes, oh, bullshit. So finally we get Michael out there, and I mean, these cops were determined to put them in cuffs and that, and there's back and forth. And fortunately, one of the motorcycle police officers was when we're doing indie stuff, besides me working for the office, was my wrestling manager. And I said, hey, let me see this warrant. And he showed me the warrant. I go, this ain't the Michael Hayes you're looking for. I know this fool. So it's like that Michael Hayes come close to getting the handcuffs slapped on him and being hauled off for Grand Theft Auto. But if I wouldn't have, been there to intervene, he would have been sent down to the, local jail and stuff. So he we laughed about it. He goes, I owe you one, brother. And it's like, never got that, IOU paid off. So I'm still looking for Michael Hayes.
If he's
that's
watching,
tremendous.
And I got to give a shout out to my good friend Bob Cook. I know I watched Bob Cook's podcast, and Bob's hilarious, man. Probably one of the nicest guys in the business. A lot of the guys, like Bob and stuff. So Bob said he was going to kill me if I didn't, put him over. So I told him no problem. He was like, I know Bob for years. Me and Bob are cool. Now some of the guys. Nah, not really. So, if there's anything you want to, ask me, and we can play the word association game with wrestlers, and I'll give you my honest, unbiased opinion about it, uncensored, You know, so I'm not going to pull no punches. You know, so I don't know what you guys are exactly looking for,
You
or
should have you
I'm
should
not
have
going
told
to
us that in advance.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah. I've got one question for you, and there was very little information about this, but I did scour the deep dark web and I found that allegedly, you can confirm or deny it, in 1991 you had a WWF match under the name Rick Anderson. That true?
I wrestled as Rick Anderson briefly in 85, 86 on the Indies because the promoter that I worked for unfortunately thought by me using the last name Anderson would, you know, draw people in. And I learned very quickly that that was kind of shady.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, I was 19 years old and I actually had hair. So I did look like an Anderson. So I mean, you know, I could see where, you know, the similarities, but this promoter also, you know, had guys like there was a guy that Snake Watson. But when I first started going to the local indie shows, I would see this flashing sign said pro wrestling, Bruno Sammartino Jr., Snake, uh, Jake the Snake. You know, so you're thinking as a wrestling fan, these are the guys you're going to see that you've seen in magazines and wrestling on TV and stuff. Then you go and it's like, well, who the hell is this guy? You know, it's like false advertisement, and that just never set well with me. So yeah,
Was
I wrestled as an Anderson earlier in my career.
was Randy Hogan on those shows?
No, but I have met Randy and real good friends with Randy.
Nice
So
guy.
nice guy, yeah.
So Rick, in clarification, then, did you ever wrestle a match for the WWF?
No, technically no, but technically yes, because WWF bought out uh, WCW. They have their library. There is a match on it because Bob Cook seen it several different times when it was on the WWE network, and he told me about it, and I could never find it. One day I saw it. It was a match that they filmed WCW Saturday night. It was at the Jacksonville Coliseum. It was the night that Barry Windham turned heel and joined the Four Horsemen. So that's another highlight of my wrestling career, being in the right place at the right time. My match was against Nikita Koloff. Unfortunately, they needed a lot of time to run this angle and this for that. So Nikita comes to me and goes, "Hey, we're going to have to cut it short." I said, "Okay." My match lasted probably 60 seconds. But yeah, hey, you know.
That's TV.
Given the fact that you were a big Dusty fan growing up, did you and Dusty put together the bashes? That was one of his brain children. Did you get to meet Big Dust behind the scenes when you were on the show?
Oh yeah, as a matter of fact, when I was down in Florida, Dusty was there and stuff. And like I said, I I was the oddball. I was the youngest guy around. I was the last guy in the class of '86 that come through championship wrestling from Florida. So I'm in like awe of, these guys and stuff, and I want to be, you know, in the locker room taking pictures of guys and taking pictures of Ron Simmons, Pez Watley. They're all like looking like, who the hell is this big kid, taking pictures back here and that. And I had a homemade green jacket with my name on it. It was real janky done, and Ricky and Robert, the Rock and Roll Express, were behind me, and they were like trying to read the name, and someone asked me, what's that say on the back of your shirt? I said, oh, it says Krusher Knopf, So it's like, it is what it is. But yeah, I met Dusty. Got along real well with Dusty. Matter of fact, he had a series of DVDs out, Turnbuckle Memories. I don't know if you guys heard of those. Actually, Dusty handpicked the matches to be put on there, and I'm on 2 of those different DVDs. I think there's like 12 volumes. I'm on 2 different DVDs. One, me and my late partner Sam Bass were wrestling against the New Zealand Sheep Herders, Butch Williams and Luke Miller. Well, I probably just said their names wrong. Excuse me. Hella funny guys. They're in the wrestling. We're in the ring and that, and Butch or Luke's trying to get me to laugh, while we're doing stuff, and he goes, "Hey, mate, your dick's hanging out, mate. Your dick's hanging out." It's like, I'm trying not to crack up, So it's like, but I met Dusty's son, Dustin, and wrestled against Dustin, and that was probably '89 when they tried to revamp the Florida territory. Dusty, Steve Kern, and another outside party. But yeah, Dusty was like my Michael Jordan, my Babe Ruth. Dusty was my idol.
Was there anyone, Rick, that you didn't particularly like facing in the ring, or was there anyone that was a bit too rough with guys back then?
Unfortunately, I didn't have that problem because I wrestled heels and I always had to wrestle against the baby faces. Mm-hmm. We all heard, the stories about Big Van Vader. I had the guy that I mentioned earlier, Snake Watson. He wrestled against Vader, and Vader just, tore him up. And I was always like, okay, put me in there. Put me in there. It's like, because I wasn't going to put up with anybody's BS. Because I was taught, to, stand your ground. If things got physical, and it goes back to the training part. The veterans taught you how to defend yourself in case shit went south, quick, fast, and hurry in the ring. So I made no bones about it with any of the guys. I said, I'm not that guy to mess with. I did what I had to do, kept quiet, kept my mouth shut, my ears open. We go to the, sat down, did what I had to do afterwards, sat down, ready to, time to leave, blah, blah, blah. Funny story about that is I was wrestling against Ricky and Robert. I had several matches against Ricky and Robert with several different tag team partners. And Ricky and Robert got it because they were at that time they were running a feud against Doom for the World Tag Team belts. So you're going to have, big, heel guys against them. And they actually let us work. And we're trained in the wrestling business to work right-handed. Well, I'm left-handed. There's only a couple of people that I know in the wrestling business, excuse me, that work left-handed. One was Adrian Street, and the other was Adrian Adonis. I believe Adrian Adonis was. So I work left-handed, and my mentor and trainer, Hallie Wilson, a.k.a. Papa Smurf, he told me, hey, man, you got to let these guys know that you work left-handed, because if you don't, they're going to think you're trying to shoot on them, in the ring. And so I'm wrestling Ricky, and I'm throwing a left-hand punch. And Ricky the next taping I'm in the tag team match against Rick and Scott Steiner. We're outside, talking about stuff, and Ricky casually comes by, walking past us. He goes, "Hey, watch out for brother's left. It's got a kick like a mule." And Scott Steiner goes, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, watch out for his left." So Scott goes, "Let me see you throw a punch." I say, "For real?" He goes, "Yeah." So I throw it. And I always had a terrible problem of throwing punches because I've knocked out people with my punch. And usually when I throw the punch, my wrist bone would hit, but with the force, 300 something pounds going behind it was like a damn anvil knock you out. So I threw the perfect punch. Scott goes, "Do it again." I said, "For real?" He goes, "Yeah, for real." Okay, do it again. Perfectly. That's two. Third time, again. Okay. 3 perfect punches. Text punches. Scott goes, "One more time." I'm not looking at him. I'm looking at my tag team partner. Now, my tag team partner has a hard head. My tag team partner has been known to ram his head into light poles and dent them. And so I'm looking at my tag team partner. I said, "For real?" He goes, "Yeah, for real." And I look at Scott Steiner. I said, "For real?" He goes, "Yeah, for real." I said, "Okay." So I grab my tag team partner by the back of his head, rear back one of my left hand, bam, right between the eyes. Scott looks at me and goes, "Don't throw no punches." I'm thinking, "You ass." you sat there and it bothered me to throw a perfect textbook punch, and I did it. And now you're telling me not to throw any punches because you told me for real? You didn't say kayfabe it. You said for real. I was okay. But yeah, that's another that's another one. But yeah, let's play the name game because I think this is gonna be fun.
Well, let's just throw out random names then, shall we?
Go for it.
Ric Flair.
Nice guy. Really nice guy. Woo!
Jack.
Johnny Ace.
When I met Johnny Ace was cool. His brothers were cool. His younger brother wrestled as Terminator. Short career, got out of the wrestling business, went into the private sector, made his money there. Animal. Yeah. Good.
Ultimate
good
Warrior.
Guy. Who?
Ultimate Warrior.
Never met him, but from what I observed of him in his career, Jim could be an ass.
What about Double A Arn Anderson, who you briefly shared the surname?
Arn, hell of a nice guy. Hell of a nice guy. Didn't really have much interaction with him, but I followed his career when he first started wrestling. Under his name Marty Lundy. And actually, I've been watching a lot of Mid-South wrestling TV studio matches, and he's on those.
Kevin Sullivan.
Kevin Sullivan, hell of a nice guy. Kevin was probably one of the 2 guys that really took me under his wing and tried to properly mentor me when I was wrestling for Florida Championship Wrestling. That him and Sir Oliver Humperdinck were really nice to me. I mean, like I said, I was just a kid back then, in the late 80s. So I was kind of awkward. I was, over 6 foot, over 300 pounds. There was an angle that Kevin was going to be doing, the Army of Darkness. There was this guy that his name was Randy. I can't remember his last name, but he was always trying to get into the down there in the office of Florida Championship Wrestling, but could never get through the front door. So I basically told him, we bumped into each other on an indie show. I told him what I did, so he went and did that. Next thing I know, he's working, and they put this gimmick on him. Kevin was doing named Incubus, and that at the Great American Bash Tour, I ran into Randy, and he at that time, because he did Incubus for a little while, then he went up to WCW as the Mighty Wilbur. I don't know if you guys remember Mighty Wilbur. I think Tommy Angel might have talked about that. And I was talking to Randy, and Randy goes, "Hey, man, I want to talk to you." I said, "Okay." So he pulled me off to the side. He goes, "Hey, man, I want to thank you." I said, "For what?" I said, "For you helping me get my foot in the door, because I've been trying to get back, and couldn't get past, yada, yada, yada." And then he informed me that the Incubus gimmick was a toss-up. They were leaning towards me, and then when Randy came in, they went with Randy because Randy had more years of experience in the ring, and Randy was slightly heavier than I was at the time. And he goes, "I want to thank you." I said, he goes, "Because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have this opportunity. What's going on? But don't tell nobody about it because I don't want to screw anything up with one of my chances of working with him." And I said, "Okay." So later on that night, I'm sitting there kicking myself in the ass and go, "Man, if I'd never done that, I probably wouldn't have been that guy." But, it's, it just so happens,
That's how it goes. What about the infamous polarizing Nasty Boys?
Nasty Boys. Oh, I got a good story for you about the Nasty Boys. Nasty Boys have been known to sit there and pull ribs on guys in bars, put stuff in their drinks and stuff or whatever, and fart on people and stuff, ha ha ha. I was wrestling against them down for the revamped professional wrestling for Florida in a tag team match against the Nasty Boys. Brian Knobs decided that he was going to headbutt me in the match. But Brian figured one headbutt's not enough. Let's give him 3 headbutts. So, okay, I'm going to give you my body. First one was hard as hell. Second one was slightly light. By the third one, it was light as a feather. Because Brian Knobs found out my head was way harder than his head was. About knocked him out. That's but yeah, the Nasty Boys, hell of a nice guys.
Rick Rude.
Rick Rude, never really personally met Rick Rude, but from what I understand, nice guy.
Jack has
Big
actually
Boss
got
Man
an
Ray Trailer.
What's that?
Big
Go ahead,
Boss
Rick.
Man.
Big Boss Man Ray Trailer. Known him from working when he first started wrestling as a job guy. Couldn't be happier for the guy. From what I understand, a really nice guy, easy to get along with. Everybody loved him.
I was just saying there that Jack, when we were doing our research for this show, he brought up a match. I'll let you, Jack. You found it. You can run it by Rick, and we'll get to the bottom of this story as well.
Yeah. This in one of your own YouTube videos, you were talking about your, I guess, long-standing program with Papa Smurf, your trainer, and you said you've been to the top of the mountain, and what flash was a advertisement for a 2001 match, approximately June, where you were slated to wrestle Hulk Hogan at the base of the Eiffel Tower. And and that immediately jumped out for obvious reasons. Can you listen on that story?
Yeah, that was basically a rib. One of the guys that I co-hosted a wrestling talk show host with uh, back in '97. The wrestling talk show radio show was Between the Ropes, and the guy's name was Joe Capone. Joe Capone passed away about a year or so ago, and Joe always thought it was funny to him to do stuff like this and involve my name and stuff to piss off the other wrestlers, like, and make it like, oh, I'm claiming to do this. I've claimed to do this. He would even go far as when the wrestling message boards were a big thing. Go on the Florida wrestling boards using my name to piss off all the guys down in Florida, where everybody wanted to kick my ass. But my philosophy was, hey, let's go, let's dance, because I'm not that guy to mess with. You're not saying that I wouldn't walk away with bruises or whatever, but they would have known I was there.
Did you ever get to meet Hulk then over the years? Back to the name game.
Yes, once. This was back in late 80, 87. Might have been 87, 88, 89, around that frame. When WWE started WWF back then. We were running shows. They came through Florida. They came to Jacksonville. And I was backstage, with them. Met Hogan, Jay Strongbow, George Animal Steel, the British Bulldogs. Matter of fact, I went and did they wanted some coffee in British, and David Boy Smith goes, "Hey man, can you go get us some coffee?" I was like, "Sure, I'll go get you some coffee." So I, went to concession, got the coffee, and brought it back. And they had an elevator that you could ride up and then back down to the lower level where the locker rooms were. So I'm coming back with her coffee, getting the elevator. And just so happened, Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth were in the elevator. So it's like, I'm not expecting anybody to be in the elevator. The doors open, there they are, and it's like, okay, cool. I get in there. We all heard stories about how Randy was possessive and jealous and protective over Elizabeth. No, I'm sorry. She is fine. And she got, if you're a red-blooded American male, you got eyeballs that are working and your blood's pumping. You're just like, there you see Elizabeth. But it's like my whole time, and I'm sitting there holding this tray of coffee. It's like, don't look at her. Don't look at her. Keep your eyes forward. Because it's like I can just feel, Randy's eyes on the back of my head. Don't you be looking at my woman. So it's like, but it was cool, being around the guys and stuff.
How does one end up then? You said you never technically wrestled for them, but how does one end up then backstage making these guys coffees?
Well, basically, it's like, I being wrestling for Florida Championship Wrestling, I got to know the guy that was at the door. So it's like, it's like you see me there before, so it's like go backstage and stuff, and just basically, stay out the guys' ways, but kind of like intermingle with them and stuff, and introduce myself. So they knew I was a wrestler, but it's like, I had no problem, being the gopher for them because I knew they couldn't go get the stuff. So
yeah,
I had no problem with it.
Were you in the hope of maybe getting an opportunity through that for the company then?
If it happened, it happened. If not, I was cool. It was like, because I was one of the boys. So and that's the way I looked. That's the way I looked at it. That's the way I played it. I didn't try to suck up on them and you know overstep my bounds with them and mark out for them and like, oh my god, you're so funny. The funny thing was when I first went down to Florida, me and my tag team partner are sitting. We get there early because I always was taught to get to the arena early, and I would travel with the Smurfs to towns and that. We would always get there a couple hours early. So we're sitting in there, we're putting on our ring gear. In walks Blackjack Mulligan, my tag team partner, one of my tag team partners' favorite wrestler. He starts marking out. Now, this guy's been in the business longer than I have, a couple years longer than I have. And I'm sitting there looking at him. He's marking, oh my God, Blackjack Mulligan. I look at him and say, what the hell's your problem? I said, man, he's just like us, man. He puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like we do. And, it's like, I thought it was hilarious that, this guy's sitting there marking out. And it's like, dude, I should be the one marking out, but you're sitting there freaking out. And we're just sitting there. And then Terry Funk comes downstairs. And let's see if I could do this justice for Bob Cook. Terry Fink goes, hey, you don't mind if I sit down there and dress with you? These guys upstairs are assholes. So it's like, okay. Like, Terry Funk just sat down and talked with us and stuff, and, shared a little bit of knowledge with them and treated us like we were equals. Like not treating us like we're a bunch of, idiots and, job guys. And that's another thing. Job guy. A lot of guys in the business don't like the word.
Yep.
Barry Horowitz hates the word. Bob Cook's not really too keen on the word job guy. Me, the word job guy never bothered me. Because that was my job, to put the superstars over. So I wore the word job guy like a badge of courage. So it never bothered me.
I think a lot of the problems is, Rick, just to cut across you, it's like when guys from outside the business are critical of wrestlers and refer to them as job guys when they've never stepped in the ring. That's I think the issue a lot of wrestlers have.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And the thing about it is, unless you've been in the business, unless you've put on a pair of tights, pair of wrestling boots, stepped through the ropes, taken bumps, what gives you the right to sit there and criticize what we do in the damn ring? You can 100%. Sit there and have opinion all you want. That's your freedom of choice. But unless you lived a lifestyle, took bumps, bled sweat, gone through the heartbreaks of the business, you could be an armchair quarterback all you want. I can sit there and NASCAR. I don't get NASCAR. You want to press me, go left. Go against the grain. I don't sit there and sit there and go, NHL sucks. I don't care about NHL. But it's like, I'm not going to say, plastic surgeon. I could do that. No, you can't. It's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, before I ask you a question related to job guys or whatever term you put on it, I wanted to just briefly go back to a match you had with the Rock and Roll Express with a partner by the name of Death Row. And what jumped out to me about that match, not only how good it was and how you made them look like $1 million, but Jim Ross on commentary, perhaps, arguably the best to ever do it, or one definitely in that conversation. He put over your size and your strength and how it was a momentous task for the Rock and Roll. It seemed to me beyond what was required to, emphasize the big men versus smaller men deal. Just wondering, were you surprised by that? And was there ever any plans for you guys to be, a more of a tag team, given that how he put you over really strong?
Actually, when I first saw the match, I was shocked how Jim Ross actually put me over. It felt good, to be honest with you. Death Row, his real name's Rosie. He's passed away now, but hell of a nice guy. By looking at him, he's intimidating as hell. Would scare the shit out of you. Of course, I scared the shit out of a lot of people myself. But hold up, don't crack up there, Maurice. I might have to come over there and get you.
Headbutt.
But yeah, me and Rosie had good chemistry together. I would have loved to, ran a program with him as a tag team partner. But that was up to the powers to be, and that never really came to happen. But
it's a shame. There was definitely potential there, especially with the Rock and Roll Express, some money left on the table. But back to the whole job enhancement talent, whatever you want to call it. Is it your one of the objectives that we have on Cheap Heat Productions Wrestling Podcast is to get everyone's story out there that was in the business, because of the respect that we have for the business and what it takes to be a wrestler, especially in that time frame that you were working for WCW, NWA. Do you think that it is something that should be recognized at the higher levels, the vital role that enhancement guys played in national television during that golden era? I mean, those of us of a certain age can most certainly recall being highly entertained by enhancement guys, and also the role that they played, as you pointed out, getting stars over. But do you think it's overdue that folks who made their mark in that respect, not with what they did regionally, but nationally, should be in a Hall of Fame?
I think there is a good possibility that they could have a wing in the Hall of Fame for enhancement talent. And I guess that's a better term to use instead of job guy, or you could use the word carpenter. That's not something that a lot of people would refer to. A lot of the older guys, yeah, carpenter, enhancement talent. Our jobs were there to make these guys look good on TV. Now, that doesn't say that somewhere during the match, things could go south in the ring, and then, something could happen. And it did happen, excuse me, with a match with Death Row wrestling against Mike Rotundo. Things got a little bit heated in the ring, and they got to blows, and got to blows after the match. Guys, certain guys who sit there were great to work with. Then there were certain guys that would sit there and treat the job guys like we were nothing but their doormats. They could do anything they wanted to us with no consequences and repercussions afterwards, because they're the superstars, we're the bottom feeders. So it's like, take it or, and just deal with it. Well, I'm sorry, I wasn't that guy, Not saying that I was trying to be big bad Johnny Badass, but I wasn't going to get intimidated by anybody. There's a couple stories I like to share about that situation. Earlier, when I went up to WCW, the very first thing I do get to Atlanta, I'm riding up the elevator, and who is I'm sharing the elevator with? None other than Jake the Snake's father, Grizzly Smith. Now, I was like, okay, I give Grizzly Smith the wrestler's handshake. Grizzly rips me a new one. He said, don't give me that lip-wristed handshake crap. Shake my hand like a man. I go, yes, sir. It's like, okay, well, I won't make that mistake again, because I was always taught when you meet another wrestler, you give the secret handshake, you know, really, light and stuff, but apparently Grizzly Smith hated that shit. So it's like, okay. Then there was another incident, getting ready to go out and do a TV taping, and I had this robe made. It was kind of like a vest, had a cape. It was an old style throwback look to something that luchador wrestler would wear, something like Mil Mascaras would wear. And ironically, it looked just like it. So I'm going to the match, and Ole Anderson is standing there because Ole was apparently booking at that point or whatever, or in charge. Ole looks at it and goes, take that crap off. I go, what? He goes, you ain't wearing that crap out in the ring. So it's like, okay, I didn't see anything wrong with it, but, whatever. You crusty old fart. And I'm walking back, and in the hallway, Hawk and Animal are there, and they're laughing at me. And I'm looking at them and go, what the hell are y'all laughing at? What are you, a face paint on your face? You look like a couple of damn clowns. Jim Cornette standing in the hallway laughing at me, and that. And I go, what the hell are you laughing at? I said, the way you dress, you look like a vegetable melody. So I didn't take shit from anybody. It probably wasn't the best thing to do, in my young career, but, it's like I didn't take crap from people. That might have been my downfall, but, it's like, if you go, don't let them get you, because if they think they can get you, they're going to ride you. So they gave it to me, I gave it back.
You were saying earlier about the name game. So if I was to say, you got to give me 4 names without explanation. If I give you your Mount Rushmore of carpenters, which 4 guys are on it?
Okay, let me roll that one over. First 2 right out the gate, George South, Bob Cook. Next 2. That's a tough one.
Wasn't a planned question.
That is a tough one, because there's been a lot of guys that I feel that probably could have, got the nod, but didn't. You got me. I can't.
Well, what we'll do is we'll down the line we'll do a part 2, and by the time that is coming around, you'll have your 4. How about
that? I got a couple of good stories to tell. Ron Simmons. When Ron first started wrestling for Florida Championship Wrestling, I was one of his first few matches. Ron goes to pick me up for a body slam. I didn't want to go. Now, grant you, I had to convert from my thinking working from the indies, working for the office versus working the office. Because I never left my feet working on the indies, because I was the big bad heel. So I'm wrestling Ron. Ron goes to pick me up for a body slam. I don't want to go. So he goes to pick me up, and I just like dead weight him. Now he's lifting barbells and weights and that. That's okay, fine. But you're talking mass. I don't want to go. So I just basically throw my arms and everything out, unbalance them and that. He gets me up to probably his like midriff. And all of a sudden he goes, ugh, and then drops me. we finished the match and we're in the back. He goes, damn, brother. He goes, how much do you weigh? And I told him. And I laughed and tell everybody, I said, I started that damn phrase for Ron Simmons. So I'm looking for Ron to this day. Ron owes me royalties for that phrase, damn. Because I started it.
If he's watching, which I'm sure he isn't, but hello, Ron.
If he is, it's like he does conventions, and one of these days I'm going to run into him in the convention and go, hey, Ron, you remember back in the day when they did this and you said, damn? He goes, yeah. I said, dude, you made money off of that. I started that. I think you owe me royalties.
I'll clip that. I'll clip that as a clip for you.
But there's like I said,
in terms of
go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in terms of your most proud accomplishment in the business, what would that be? Be it in ring or promoting or whatever.
A lot of like a touch base with the earlier stuff that I did working for the office, and probably the other is doing independence, starting up my own wrestling promotion. I wrestled in the early 80s as another gimmick besides doing Krusher Knopf. I did a gay gimmick and as the adorable one, Rick Rhodes. Then I had a tag team partner, and we called ourselves the Twisted Sisters. And then I had another tag team partner. He was shorter than me, uglier than me. And I was doing the Rick Rose thing, and he was the Beast. So we were Beauty and the Beast. And we were wrestling for a promotion. Particularly didn't care for how things were being run, especially by guys that were supposed to be in charge of stuff, booking the stuff and everything, calling the shots. We particularly didn't care. At this time, I've been doing this longer than anybody else. So it's kind of hard for me to keep my mouth shut. I was very, very opinionated. So it's like, I said, why don't we just start up our own thing? So in 97, we started up Insane Wrestling Alliance and ran promoted shows. And that was probably a highlight. The other highlights were me doing 2 different wrestling talk shows, 1 radio show, and then I did a blog talk radio show, Cruncher's Classic Memories. Did interviews with a few different wrestlers. So those were my highlights. Now my low points in the business. The last time I worked for WCW was probably one of the lowlights. And the last match I had was against Brian Pillman. Now, there's a lot of guys that sit there and praise Brian Pillman. Steve Austin has nothing bad to say about Brian Pillman. Good buddy. Pal, great. No, Brian Pillman was a dick. He was an asshole. I was in a match with him, and he did his thing was do like a spinning savate kick. he hits me with it, and out the corner of my eye, I want to sell for him. I want to do business, and I want to take this big bump and make it look good. Out the corner of my eye, when I'm starting to go back, take the bump, I noticed the ring ropes behind me. And from my vision, it looked like they were closer than what they were. So I didn't take the full bump. I kind of like took a knee. Pissed Brian off. Didn't like it. Because I guess in his mind, I was making him look bad. So we do the match. He goes for the finish. He comes off with the flying body press off the top rope, top turnbuckle. Hits the guy, usually hits the guy in the chest. No, he hits me in the face. I catch him. I laugh at him and then take the bump. Pisses him off even more. We get back to the back. He starts cursing me out. Now, my thing is, if you want to curse me out, ridicule me, whatever, pull me to the side, go for it. I got tough skin, I could take it. His thing was, he did it in front of the boys, the other job guys and stuff. That started a big no-no. I went to Jody Hamilton, assassin, sitting in the gorilla position. I asked Jody, I said, Jody, how was the match? Jody gave me a thumbs up. That's all I was ever concerned about. You could be in the ring, you might not like what happened. My concern was of the man in charge in the gorilla position, yes, no, indifferent. Now, if it would have been that bad, Jody chewed my ass out, I would have took, the verbal, reprimand. Jody gave me thumbs up. Brian continues to rant and rave about it. Sets me off. I mean, I go into a tirade. And I start cursing. And basically the gist of it was, I want to whip Brian's ass. Because all the guys go, ooh, you did, ooh, he did this. And she's like, I said, give me a chair. I said, I'll take a steel chair and I'll wrap it beside his damn head. I don't care. And I was not quiet about it. I was very boisterous about it. I think the whole building could hear me. I mean, that's how red I was. Now, being said, being young and stupid, because that's what it was, I let my emotions get the best of me. But the other thing that came into play was there was an outside factor. There was another worker, another guy by the name of Sid Vicious. Sid didn't like Brian. Never liked Brian. I don't know what he says nowadays about him. But Sid used me as a puppet. Just kept nang, 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 nang. Brian said that. Brian said. I just went ballistic. And Junkyard Dog come up to me and goes, pull me aside. He goes, hey, man, don't let these guys get over on you. Don't let them intimidate you. Because if they feel like they could do this to you, everybody's going to do it to you. And he basically, Junkyard Dog was trying to, calm me down, get me off the ledge. And he pointed me over to a guy. He goes, see that guy over there? I go, yes, sir. He goes, the Samoans would, ridicule this guy and, whatever all the time. And then one day, this guy got tired of it. And in the locker room saying stuff, the guy reaches in his, this is what Dog was telling me. The guy had a pistol in his pocket. And people were giving him shit. And the Samoans, I guess, were leading the charge on this. And the guy just had enough. Reached in his bag, pulled out his pistol, popped a shot off, whizzed by one of their heads and shit. And then nobody in the locker room gave that guy shit after that. So it's like, you know, but Buddy Landell come up to me and goes, "God damn, Krusher, what'd you do to piss him off?" And it set me off again. And I said, "I don't give a rat, you know, blah, blah, blah." And I went to the dressing room, started changing out. Here comes Pillman. For some reason, you had to go through the Hill locker room to get to the outside parking area. Pillman's coming in there, so pissed off, ranting and raving, whatever. He still has all of his ring gear on. He's got his suitcase and his bag and shit, and walking in, sees me, you know, and doesn't say anything. He just keeps going. Short, a few seconds after that, here comes Lex Luger. Lex Luger's looking at me, and I'm halfway undressed, and I look up. He's looking at me and go, "What the hell you want?" And Lex just turns around and walks back out the other way. So the following day, we're at center stage. Get a phone call. I'm in there getting ready to, I'm dressing and stuff. Phone rings. Kevin Sullivan answers the phone. I believe it was Kevin Sullivan. Apparently it's Brian Pillman on the other end, refusing to come in to the locker room if I'm in the locker room. Now, why are you afraid to come in the locker room? Is it because you pissed me off so badly that everybody told you the next time I saw you, I was going to be in to kick your ass? We were going to fight? Could that be the reason? So, Pillman got his way. Kevin walked up to me and said, "Hey, you know, you can't be here. Pillman's refusing to come in here." So I said, "What about, you know, me?" He said, "You got to go sit up in the stands." He said, "Don't worry, you still get paid for, you know, your time and stuff." I said, "But you can't be in here." And unfortunately, that was the last time I worked for WCW. So that was like the rise and fall of working for WCW.
Fucking hell.
But like I said, I'm not gonna sit there and sugarcoat none of this guy. A lot of the guys I got along with, the only two guys I can really think of that I had major issues with, one was Pillman, the other one was Brett Wayne Sawyer, Bud Sawyer's little brother.
Yeah.
This goes back to the second version of the Florida down in Tampa. I was in a tag team match. I think it was me and Dustin Rhodes against him and a guy named Jimmy Backlund wrestled later on as Jimmy Del Rey, one half of the Heavenly Bodies. I'm giving you my body. As much as I hate to say this, those two guys were higher than a freaking kite. They were drugged out, pilled up, whatever the hell they were doing. They took it upon themselves to try to rip my head off. I did business because I knew Jimmy from back when I first started wrestling. We worked on the same independent shows and promotion. So I kind of like looked over it, but I didn't appreciate it. We get into the back. Unknowns to me that there is a promoter visiting. I think he was from Hawaii. And we get back into the locker room and that. I'm fuming. And Brett Sawyer is standing behind guys like, you know, the Looney Tune cartoon where you got that big massive pit bulldog and then got the little yap yap dog. Got yap 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 behind them, you know, like I got my bodyguard. I can talk shit if I want to. You ain't nothing you can do. That's what Brett was doing. And it's like, dude, yeah, I wanted to rip their hands off. But those are basically the only two I can really think of that I had any major issue with.
Well, that's not a bad average at all. Rick, you've been very generous with your time tonight. I foresee a part 2 in the future,
Definitely.
but in the meantime, where can all the fans keep up with you on social media, sir?
They can look me up on Facebook, Rick Knopf. Also, my wrestling promotion, Insane Wrestling Alliance, Facebook. Twitter is at IWA of Florida. Then Instagram is at IWA of Florida. Anybody's, welcome to hit me up on any of those. I really appreciate the opportunity coming on the show.
Pleasure's ours.
Thank you very much for having me, and I would love to come back and do it again. Quick shout out to my good friend Bob Cook. Hope I was entertained. Probably not as entertaining as funny as Bob was. And for all the guys that were listening, because I'm telling them a lot about what's going on. I have a friend on Facebook. His name's Richard over in England. Give a shout out to him. Current people I'm working with right now, USWA promoter, female wrestling promoter, Ella Quillins. I believe that's her last name. Just recently, this past October, I was inducted into the Jacksonville Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Congrats.
Which was a real tremendous honor because I went into it with my mentor, friend, Hallie Wilson, a.k.a. Papa Smurf. I started my wrestling career in Jacksonville. So that was a big highlight for me to be inducted to Jacksonville Wrestling Hall of Fame, along with a couple other guys that I worked with and stuff. And also Don Curtis was inducted into the Jacksonville Wrestling Hall of Fame. Matter of fact, USWA has a show January 13th. It'll be the 6th annual Don Curtis Memorial Cup show. So look forward to doing stuff with them. Got a few things going on in 2024. See what happens, but I greatly appreciate you guys reaching out to me to be part of this podcast show. I enjoyed myself. I hope my stuff was informative for you guys and stuff, and I would love to come back and do it again if you would have me.
We will have you, and I've actually just thought of a very interesting concept for the show, which we'll talk about off air. So I have an idea. Got an idea.
I'm down.
Well, Rick, once again, thank you very much for your time, and we'll definitely be in touch. And fans, that is it for this edition of the Cheap Heat Productions Wrestling Podcast. Thank you for viewing, and if you haven't, click subscribe on that button to keep up to date with all the content we have coming in 2024, and we will talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.